in today's world, I think volatility is the new norm.
Yeah.
So there are things or events which are happening every other day, which are not really priced in by markets. And hence, it is important for leaders to anchor that what matters. Today, when we see the ease and the flexibility at which quick commerce has shaped up, e-commerce first and then quick commerce.
Correct.
10 years ago, we never fathomed this.
True.
But over this decade, it has been a massive wealth creation opportunity. Right? Market always values you or pays you for predicting the future.
Correct.
Nobody really values you for getting the past right. Liquidity is the only thing that can bring an organization immediately down in the short term. A lot of times what happens is, it is, as a human, not easy to admit I was wrong.
Yeah.
That is why in an organization culture, the wrong decisions keep rotting the organization.
True.
You bring out your survival instincts. First survive, thrive. It's your ability to learn, unlearn, relearn with agility. That curiosity should be there. Leaders look for people who are willing to raise their hand and say, I'll do it. Just be there, hang on, move on, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. Eventually, something will work, something will get it right, and you will reach your goal.
Hello and welcome to another super special episode of Karmine Kompass with pivotal conversations. Mr. Kashyap Mody is the head Treasury and Strategic Finance at Jio Platforms. Apart from Jio Platforms, he's previously worked with Reliance Investments and also with Citibank. What is that special moment? And the big part of Mr. Mody is the fact that he's been the ambassador of Comrades, which is he's into absolutely fantastic long stretch running, and that too in Africa with lots of Indians participating. It's a 12-hour run which is almost into a 90-kilometer run. Let's welcome our guest, Mr. Kashyap Mody, on Pivotal Conversations on the Karmine Kompass. Kashyap, let's talk from the market perspectives and the treasury priorities. So in today's volatile market scenarios and the environment that we are in, what signals actually do you personally watch most closely to stay anchor as a finance professional?
So in today's world, I think volatility is the new norm.
Yeah.
So there are things or events which are happening every other day, which are not really priced in by markets. And hence, it is important for leaders to anchor that what matters. Because every week or every fortnight, it is something else that matters. So you got to identify what matters, and that is the thing that you need to watch for, right? So the time when Trump was at its best in the recent past, all that mattered was the announcement on tariffs, which country and how and when. But now that has kind of got a bit subdued. Suddenly, the last couple of days or 2-3 weeks, it's all about AI companies buying stakes or investing large sums in other companies. That is what driving market caps higher. So you got to find the flavor of the fortnight or the month and identify that and keep tracking that as the first thing to track.
True.
To be specific to your question.
Yeah. So, from your vantage point, right, where do you see that untapped opportunities or those blind spots in Indian or maybe even global markets?
So in an opportunity standpoint, I think over a medium to long term, there are significant consumer behavior changes that are happening.
Yeah.
And when we spot them and identify them, they really are big opportunities for wealth or value creation. But what happens is at times we are very short-term focused. So we tend to miss the large and the big themes, right? So, for example, today when we see the ease and the flexibility at which quick commerce has shaped up, e-commerce first and then quick commerce.
Correct.
10 years ago, we never fathomed this.
True.
But over this decade, it has been a massive wealth creation opportunity, right? So you got to be able to identify those trends which are important changes in consumer behavior. That is when those untapped opportunities really crop up.
What are the most pressing risks, if I may ask you, as finance leaders one should prepare for in the coming decade? Will it be currency? Could it be liquidity, credit, or something absolutely less obvious, but maybe a real big one coming ahead?
Yeah, so I think as finance leaders, of course, we are very focused on risks that market dynamics bring in. Like as you mentioned, a currency risk, a liquidity risk, or a credit risk. But it is equally important to see the changes that are happening in the world which impact business.
Yeah.
Right? And that is where an eye of a finance guy becomes really helpful. For example, today when we think about, there's just so much written and spoken about AI.
Yeah.
It is important for finance guys also to know, understand, and probably dimension the impact it can have on their businesses.
True. Yeah.
And then hence, how do you kind of navigate the organization or the organization strategy to ensure that it doesn't hurt you badly or you take advantage of it? Yeah. That is very important.
Yeah.
And then, of course, on market risk, I mean, for any corporate or any large corporate which has domestic or large global operations, if you have exposure to currency, you have exposure to interest rates, I think those have to be managed.
Yeah, part and parcel
it's a BAU.
Correct. You brought a good point about AI, and that's the buzzword today.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a digital finance or AI transformation, and especially I'm talking about finance transformation, what does it really mean to you as a very senior finance professional? Is it about tooling, or is it about maybe the mindset or the organizational design, or something completely different?
I think every organization probably is trying to deal or capitalize on it in a different way. And there is probably no one way of dealing with it within the organization as well. Because we all know and read about how AI or AI tools and AI platforms can be really transformational. But at a user level, how it will help me or how I need to use it, only I know. I know, or a small team that works with me knows. My CEO or my CTO cannot really decide that for me, or won't be able to decide that for me. They can, of course, enable those platforms. But at the same time, how do you use that and how do you effectively improve your productivity is very specific, teams driven.
Yeah.
Which is why the mindset change is very important. The teams and the individuals need to believe that this is good, this is very valuable, and hence it is something that we should learn and put effort into.
Yeah.
And then the organization can give you those platforms. But the mindset change becomes very important. And hence, probably in every domain, today we got to, as leaders or as senior professionals, we got to step back and think, what can be done using AI, which can significantly transform the way we do things.
Yeah.
Whether it is BAU operations or whether it is better ability to predict and project.
True.
Right? Because market always values you or pays you for predicting the future.
Correct.
Nobody really values you for getting the past right.
Yeah.
So I think there is a scope, there is massive opportunity, but you got to give a focused effort. And I think which is something that organizations or leaders need to bring it in.
So, Kashyap, what's your view on embedding AI-driven frameworks probably to enable those treasury and finance teams? So, for example, like let's say leveraging agent-based ecosystems, typically intelligent monitoring or decision-making or reporting agents. Within the treasury or the finance operations, where exactly do you think is the real-world impact? And more importantly, end of the day, it's about the ROI.
True. So, I would not like to lead it with ROI. The idea at this stage, probably in most organizations, is or probably should be, is to explore where it can add value, and then try to walk that path up to a distance to see how effective can it be. And once it is effective in a small specific domain, then it becomes relatively easier to replicate it across. Taking an example, right? All organizations end up signing multiple legal agreements in a course of day-to-day business and life, right? There are commercial agreements, there are service agreements, there are financing agreements, for example. If you have a legal platform which kind of significantly simplifies this and brings about massive time saving and efficiency, once you do it in, say, financing agreements, it's easily replicable in commercial agreements. And
more
then,
of
of course,
template-based.
Then it becomes template-based. The first leg and the first journey is probably longer and harder. Then replicating is very easier. So you got to identify those within different domains, those common areas, and put an effort initially and then probably replicate it out. That is at least the way I think.
Great. In your view, what will distinguish future-ready finance organizations from the rest? So how do you separate the boys from the men or the men from the boys?
I think clearly for any organization, and definitely for finance organizations also, agility becomes extremely important. I think the pace at which the way of doing business is changing, we can't be holding on to the way we have done things in the past. Principles can remain the same, but the way of doing things need to be different, and hence the need to keep learning, unlearning and learning new things with massive agility. And hence it's important that you have people, leaders as well as team members who are willing to do that, who are willing to change, who are willing to go outside their BAU domain and learn new things, which can then that cross-functional expertise can really make a difference to the momentum and the velocity within an organization.
So I think it's stepping out of the into the uncomfortable zone.
That is always the case for everything. You want to grow, you got to operate outside the comfort zone. Otherwise, you don't.
Completely. In fact, talking about disruptive business, and especially when it comes to strategic finance, how should finance leaders balance those short-term liquidity needs vis-a-vis the long-term capital bets one has on? I know there are the regulatory norms, etc., and we always keep a close watch on what the regulator has to say. But within the experience that we have, how do you try kind of balance that approach?
So, see, for any organization, and I think most organizations are borrowers have short-term liquidity mismatches, because you mentioned liquidity. Liquidity is the only thing that can bring an organization immediately down in the short term. Everything else will never bring an organization down immediately in the short term. So as a treasury specialist or as a finance domain guy, you got to ensure that for the organization, those short-term liquidity needs are always more than adequately taken care of, and you are never trying to be penny wise pound foolish. Right? It's like we always keep saying, right? You don't lose the forest fighting over the trees.
True.
So on liquidity, you got to be a bit conservative. And of course, when you think about long-term capital bets or long-term capital, it then is a function of the sector or the sector in which the organization is operating in, the different sources of long-term funding that are available for each organization, because depending on the size and the scale of the organization, the funding sources or long-term capital sources are different. But today what is happening is, at least of course in India, 5 years ago to now, there is a lot more capital that is available. Whether it is credit, private credit, equity, a lot is available, and I think this only grows.
Correct.
This only grows. So the whole ecosystem is evolving, growing, and we are of course far away from the way a US capital markets operate, or probably Japan. But I think the change at which we are also moving pretty decent and pretty fast. So I think capital is available, and for most organizations, the right kind of capital will be available.
Absolutely. And you see the government, the role of the government as a very proactive enabler in that sense. Like you look at the ECB norms that have been really, recently kind of made a little lighter, easier. And also internally, also the GST, provisions, etc. Sustainability and green finance, they are really now kind of becoming the mainstream. In fact, the joke is that nowadays, more than greenhouse effects, the White House effects are a big difference, making the difference. So what's your perspective on how treasury and finance leaders can embed these into these typical capital strategies?
Green capital or sustainable financing is I think a space which has evolved but not really gone a long way. Because markets are unable to decide what to back and what not to back. For example, a few years ago, a lot of institutions stopped funding or backing non-renewable energy sources, right? There was a massive deficit of capex in the oil space.
Correct.
And suddenly then you realize 5 years later that there is a shortage of supply. So while you want more eco-friendly, more renewable sources of energy or sustainable forms of ways of doing business,
Yeah.
you got to encourage that. But you will never have a 180-degree shift.
Correct.
Right? Because so it is a transition which is happening, of course, but markets are not really pricing that as much.
True.
So the investor wants a return. Investor does not say that give me a lower return, because the money that I'm giving is going and funding and good green sources.
Yeah.
So if the investor is not accepting a lower return, the capital will chase the higher return.
Of course.
Right, so the whole ecosystem will take some time to change and evolve.
Yeah.
I think it is just recently that a crude example, we have started eating protein bars.
True.
Right, so to invest, accepting a lower return because it is healthier for the environment, it's a little away. EVs are also there, but not yet there. So it will evolve, but I think the pace is very slow.
Yeah, and I think, as you rightly say, that transition makes all the difference.
Yeah.
If you try to push it on to the consumer, then the side effects are going to be, and that's exactly what happened, right? You had a deficit in the actual energy space, and then that led to, and unfortunately today geopolitics plays such a huge role when it comes to supply chains, that it can just make or break the system.
It is, right? It's exactly what we are seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, we were globalized completely. Where you manufactured where it was the cheapest to manufacture, and now suddenly you're trying to completely overhaul that. That too will take time, but the reverse journey has clearly started.
It's not as easy as we think. Yeah, absolutely. Kashyap, when organizations scale rapidly, right, the risk also scale up equally and proportionately. So what kind of a mindset or probably the framework really helps you to stay ahead of those typical systemic risks?
So I feel when organizations scale up rapidly, there are, because they're so business focused, what happens is the back end side of the business is generally that gets ignored initially. So when you're only focusing on business and getting revenues, the whole, for lack of better word, the so-called operations setup is in a way not as structured, is not as process driven, is not as organizational hierarchy driven. And then that ends up coming and biting the organization a little later. So while a team is focused on growing the organization, focused on business, there also has to be a set of people who realize this and try to put these building blocks in place. So that suddenly 5 years later, you realize that you just can't scale up anymore. Because there is no back end. Or the back end is fractured and it can't really support the needs of incrementally growing business.
In fact, as you rightly put, right, any back office or so-called quote unquote back office actually is the main office. And then if that backbone or the spine of the organization crumbles, then we are really in for quite a big disaster.
I think it just happens. It's just because you're so focused on
business,
top line and business. That is where experience comes in. And that is where someone has to step back and say, guys, yes, top line is important, business is important, but because we want to grow sustainably, this is also important, and you got to build this up as well.
So let's talk about leadership, culture, and more importantly, decision making. What kind of finance culture do you believe enables that speed, that agility, and more importantly, long-term resilience?
So I think on decision making, right, it becomes extremely important for organizations' agility to have people who take decisions, can take decisions, and do take decisions. And that is when things move. That is when things move faster. At the same time, to enable the right decision making, it is important that leaders are fed with the right information, the appropriate information in the right manner. Right? You can cut, slice and dice data and MIS in various ways. But when you take it up for decision making, you got to ensure that you're showing the right things. They might be the bad things, but they are still the right thing. And so dimensioning the risk of any decision, dimensioning the impact of any decision in the short term and long term becomes important to enable that right decision making. So it is so organizations where leaders take decisions move faster. Organizations where leaders also take the decisions to unwind. Oh, we got this wrong. let's take it back.
True.
That becomes extremely important. A lot of times what happens is, it is, as a human, not easy to admit I was wrong.
Yeah.
That is why in an organization culture, the wrong decisions keep rotting the organization.
True.
So you, as whether as finance guys or as business guys, you need to have eyes and ears open that, okay, this decision has gone wrong. So let us just unwind it.
Yeah.
And clear out the mess and move ahead. If you don't do that, then just keeps kind of
Rotting.
weakening the organization.
Completely. And as you rightly put it, Kashyap, I think there's a lot of dilly-dallying, who will bell the cat kind of a situation.
Yes.
And then it just goes on, and then we see the side effects of an attrition, losses, some press media news, and end up in, then the call comes at a certain, why was it not even discussed much before?
So,
right?
but that is always a challenge, because in organizations where, say, professionally driven organizations, where it's a consensus decision making. It's not always one person decision making. In those structures, all these things become very important.
Yeah.
And you still need those guys who take decisions, who are willing to stick their neck out. If you have a bunch of people who are not willing to stick their neck out, then over a period of time, the organization will and does suffer.
Absolutely. Can't agree with you more. When faced with competing expectations, especially from boards, your investors, and even internal stakeholders, like, how do you align that strategy? And I'm sure you come across these situations day in, day out,
So I principally, I believe that you got to be doing the right thing for the business. And once you're doing that, the articulation to each kind of stakeholder, right, does not become that challenging. You know your business better than any other, an investor or any other external stakeholder.
Yeah.
So then it's a question of articulation. So you got to give that messaging right. You got to give that consistent messaging. And at times when you go wrong, there's no harm accepting and moving on.
Yeah.
Because that is when stakeholders believe, that is when stakeholders trust.
Yeah.
And when they trust, they back you.
Yeah.
And then they will stay with you for the long haul.
True.
So as long as they believe, as long as you're doing the right things for business, your vision largely is aligned with the way investors or external stakeholders think about the business, and you're doing the right things, they will back you. Yes, it is something that you got to do right and you got to do it well, but I don't see that as an extremely challenging thing.
Yeah. So long as you're on the right course and you stick to the right way of doing things, I guess.
Yes, see, because I honestly, even investors know, or that nobody knows the future beyond a point, right? You believe today that these are the A, B, C, D, E right things to do for the business. So you are walking that path. Everyone knows that it's not that all the 5 things will turn out as you envisaged. Then at the right time, when you think, okay, as I said, this is not working, change strategy, pivot, change course. So when investors or stakeholders see you doing that repeatedly and consistently in the manner that they get aligned, this is the right thing for the business, then there's no reason they'll not back you.
Yeah. Probably that's the right way for a course correction and that acceptability, right?
You got to do it.
True. How do you approach decision making, especially in when you are under ambiguous situations, particularly when managing long horizon bets in very rapidly changing sectors, which is with the reality today?
Yeah. So what happens is there are decisions which you can easily unwind. There are decisions which you can't easily unwind. Bets or decisions which you can't easily unwind have to be thought through really well. When you're taking that decision, in that period or time frame of taking those decisions, the ability to dimension different kind of risks, it becomes very important. What are the risks that you identify? What are the potential mitigations that you can have, if not today, in the future?
Yeah.
So that you know what you're getting into. Large decision or a strategic decision, once taken, and then you realize, okay, there are 7 risks that you had not thought about out of 10.
Yeah.
Then your homework was not that great.
True.
Right? So those are the things you got to be really careful, thorough, because they are difficult to unwind. Bets which are easier to unwind.
Yeah.
You will always take them with lot less information. because there will never be 100% information.
Completely.
There never is.
Yeah. True.
So that is the time you can, okay, go ahead, move on. You can always course correct quickly. So it's about the impact of the decision and the horizon or what's at stake in the decision matters.
Absolutely. Completely agree with you. How do you approach decision making when the data is incomplete and we're talking about finance, or the future itself is really unclear and you got to make a decision on something? Of course, you don't have a crystal ball probably to even think about it, but you still got to, maybe your COVID situation, right? You just didn't know what's in the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
But you had to take certain calls. How was that experience?
So, same thing, right? So, in COVID, it was, for most organizations, probably, it was first a question of health and lives of employees and the society. And once you got over a bit over that, then the health of the organization. And when you think about in such a situation, health of the organization, cash flows. Most important was cash flows, right? So how do you ensure that you have cash flows at an organization level, which will sustain you through this period? Nobody knew how long this period is going to be. At the same time, how quickly can you navigate the ship to ensure that business is as close to normal as possible? That was always the objective of most organizations, right? Let me go as close to normal as possible, which never happened. But still, what then happens is, that is when decision making becomes important, right? And because nobody had information, nobody knew what's in the future, but then you bring out your survival instincts. First, survive, thrive. Survive, thrive. So that is the way the thought process should and has been.
Absolutely. You know, India is a powerhouse of very young, talented professionals going forward. More importantly, finance professionals. And we obviously have the demographic dividend across a lot of other nations, including Europe and Japan. India really way ahead. What skills do you think are, or do you believe are really non-negotiable for the next generation of finance leaders?
So I think while as a skill set, I keep saying that one is your ability to learn, unlearn, relearn with agility. That curiosity should be there. That driving desire got to be there. What's this? How's this? Why this? So when you kind of you got to be for a voracious reader, possibly. And those are the things that will kind of bring together someone who can, over a period of time, become a really good professional. Right? Even though it is finance, then it's kind of applicable to every domain in a way.
Of course,
right? But you got to be willing to raise your hand and say, I'll do it. See, I don't think organizations really, after a point, look for whether you're a CA, you're IIT or IMA. Once you're in.
Correct.
Then what matters is how you score.
True.
That is when leaders look for people who are willing to raise their hand and say, I'll do it. I might get it wrong, but as long as you're there with me, I will give it a shot. You need people to willing to learn. You need people to willing to wanting to be accountable, take responsibility and wanting to be accountable, and of course eventually deliver.
True.
So you got to give that platform to that young talent.
Absolutely.
You give them the guardrails so that they don't crash the car. At the same time, probably let them run.
Correct.
Watch them, don't hold them, but ensure that they don't crash the car.
Most importantly, there's a new generation, the Insta generation that is coming in. Everything for that generation has been on a platter from a family standpoint. Patience levels are as less as an Instagram reel. And I think we got to adjust to their style of working. Do you see that coming up in your organization, within your own
Yes, team? It does. It does. Young talent beyond 1, 2, 3 years starts getting a bit impatient, which is a problem. Which is a problem for organizations, which is probably not a right thing for them as well. Because a lot of times delayed gratification is extremely valuable. So you got to build that domain knowledge, build that domain expertise in the younger years. Before you try to do something else or try to tweak towards being a generalist.
Yeah.
There has to be one domain expertise that you got to have.
Yeah.
And which is where if you spend that initial 10, 12 years of domain expertise, then you have something as core talent.
Yeah.
And then, okay, you're saying, okay, I've done this for 10, 12 years. That is my core talent. Let me try something which is adjoining.
Yeah.
Not dramatically different, but something which is adjoining. That is how you then adding skill sets and become a better professional with some core domain expertise.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that is something that younger guys should think about. Yes, lack of patience, lack of focus, instant gratification are the challenges that they have to deal with. We have to deal with.
Yeah.
But I hope we'll find the right balance.
Yeah. So the joke about our generation is, pehle parents ki suno, abhi bachon ki suno. So that's the kind of sandwich
True.
generation we are.
Probably I feel which we are the last generation who is listening to parents as well as kids.
True. With AI, automation and digital platforms, right, literally changing the field. How can these young professionals actually stay relevant and then ahead of the curve?
No, so it comes down to the same thing. I want to learn this. I want to do this. I want to explore this constructively.
Yeah.
See, and while Insta Reel is not a bad thing, as long as you are using it the right way.
Yeah.
Today, fortunately or unfortunately, a large portion of the world has moved to social media. So it is a great platform for advertising.
True.
It's a great platform for providing content. It's a great platform for probably consuming content as well. So yes, it is important. It is necessary, as long as you are not overwhelmed or consumed by it.
Yeah.
Right? So you got to be looking to adapt and embrace every new thing that's coming in, as long as you know where's the fine line.
Yeah.
And where you draw the balance.
True. So what mindsets or habits helped you most in actually navigating those uncertainties early in your career, and would it still hold true in today's times?
I think so. I mean, while when we are young, of course we are a bit impatient. I won't say reckless, but a bit aggressive. Try to do it my way, kind of a attitude and approach. But then it is important and valuable in an organization setup that you have people around you. As we said, social media and those reels and is important, but it is good that you know where to draw the line.
Yeah.
So that you use it constructively, use it more effectively. And in an organization setup, right, young guys are probably a bit more aggressive, bit impatient.
Yeah.
Wanting to do it my way. That's how I was. But then it is good for an organization if you have leaders, seniors around you who are seeing that, observing that,
Yeah. The right
and
kind of
helping you,
mentors in a way.
helping you with the right mentorship, right? And those things help.
Yeah.
So which is what we now as senior professionals got to do that for our young guys, and I think that's what I would say clearly helped me. And then over a period of time, I tend to realize the ability to articulate. Right, as you go senior, as you start communicating upwards, the time, attention, and patience also is not that great.
Yeah.
Because leaders are consumed with too many things. Hence, they have short time. They are written to by many people in an organization. So they got to see, read, understand a lot, many things. Hence, that ability to articulate becomes very important. When you write a mail, when you write a note, are you bringing out all the things that are there, and which then enable decision making?
Yeah.
So that skill or that talent is something that you only got to develop and build. True. Nobody teaches that.
And that comes with experience. True.
Comes with experience. So yeah, the faster you learn, the better you are.
I think making hands dirty also is another area which I think for young professionals is equally important. Especially what happens is they come from whether premier or otherwise MBA institutions. They expect that we'll be at a certain level, but on ground situations.
Of course, absolutely. I mean, it is a must I started my career with Citibank. In Citibank, we had that rule. Every new guy who comes in spends almost 2 years in a back office kind of a role, in operations or in core finance kind of stuff. Only then you move to the business side.
Yeah.
And that initial 2, 3, 4 years give you tremendous understanding,
Yeah.
which then helps you navigate or solve issues later when you are probably leading businesses or running businesses.
Yeah.
It just helps you deal or manage those things much easier and better.
Yeah.
The perspective is different.
Yeah.
You understand it better. You understand the challenges better. So it is something that is necessary.
True.
Dirtying hands.
Yeah. So, Kashyap, do you think the traditional career ladder in finance, right, especially the analyst and then on becomes a manager and then certain levels up, then eventually as the CFO, is it still valid or do you see new paths emerging?
Yeah, of course, new paths are emerging and will should emerge. So there is no, and I don't think, as we said, right, today's young guys have the patience to walk the traditional path.
Yeah.
So probably that's not there. Having said that, as professionals, we got to be open to the mindset that young or old. I mean, are you willing to move from role A to role B? Can you bat at number 1? Can you bat at number 3? Can you bat at number 5? Can you bowl a bit? If you can do a lot of these things, then in a pure organization setup, you become very valuable.
True. Yeah.
Yes, as I said, domain expertise very helpful. But if you have these skills, where you can do A and B, and B and C, then you become a much more well-rounded professional, and you can add value in different facets of an organization.
Absolutely. Completely agree. So, what advice would you give to someone who wants to combine those technical expertise with leadership presence, combination of both in finance?
Domain expertise, of course, required. Only then you can command authoritative leadership.
Yeah.
Right? Otherwise, it's not going to be that easy. But the transition from being a young guy to a domain expert and then to a leadership role, a leadership kind of a role or domain, that journey you got to craft for your own self. Because nobody is going to teach you explicitly how to lead. Nobody does that. You learn that by observing leaders around you. You learn that by, if you're a reader, by reading a lot of stuff. You learn that then through experience. But if you do a combination of these 2-3 things together, then your ability to lead, ability to be an impactful or an influential leader becomes faster and more effective. But nobody's going to teach you that. Nobody teaches that in any organization.
True.
But it's an extremely valuable skill set. I think leadership, at least in Indian context, is undervalued.
Yeah.
The effectiveness of a leader, the quality of a leader is absolutely undervalued, and we never explicitly speak about it. We never explicitly acknowledge it as much.
Yeah.
Which I think, can change.
Hopefully, yeah. In fact, that brings me to, with your prolific experience and rich expertise in treasury and with some top-notch corporates, about personal growth journeys and leadership styles, right? How do you personally approach risk in high growth, high ambition contexts?
So, should individuals or organizations have high ambitions? Of course, yes. Would you want to bet and back organizations or leaders with high ambition? Of course, we should. At the same time, the checks and balances in an organization, the ecosystem of an organization should and will generally ensure that ambition does not lead to recklessness. And hence the framework, the risk framework, or the decision making framework, or the consensus building framework in an organization is important and necessary to ensure that ambitious leaders are allowed to pursue their vision, are backed with the right capital, are backed with the right organization strength. At the same time, not everything is at stake. I think so. it's the organization setup and the ecosystem which got to ensure that. And yes, you need leaders who are ambitious. You need leaders who are visionary.
True.
You need people who can think beyond. Only then those transformational organization changes can happen.
Can you share a little bit about your formative experiences in your career that shaped your approach to finance and now leadership?
So I, of course, started my career at Citibank and largely in markets, financial markets. And I think culturally, at that point in time, it was a great place to work. Citibank India was, of course, one of the finest financial markets organizations in the country at that time. Of course, it still today is. And culturally, the ambience or the environment of learning, the environment of exposure, much less hierarchical, willing to take risks, at the same time extremely structured and process driven on risk management. You will never take a risk unless the whole back end is in place.
Yeah, very
so those kind of things, and the policy or the rule of spending some time in operations kind of a role before you move in to front end roles. I think that exposure or experience brings in or has brought in tremendous clarity for me that how should it be.
Yeah.
And if you can probably do that in wherever, it can be extremely high quality impact for the organization. And of course on leadership, as I said, right, I was always thankful, and I'm still thankful that I spent a lot of time with senior supervisors and leaders who have been extremely high quality as individuals, high quality as domain professionals and experts. Yeah, I mean, you got to, what you learn is you got to communicate explicitly, demand output and excellence.
Yeah.
At the same time, not beat the hell out of the people.
True.
So you got to do that.
Yeah.
And you can do that.
Yeah.
You can be influential, you can be inspiring. Right? And that is a better way to get the best out of people.
Let's move to a very, very quick rapid fire.
Okay.
One thing you wish you knew early in your career?
The need and the importance to articulate better.
Okay. A finance jargon you'd happily retire?
VUCA.
Okay. That's a recent one, and you would like to retire from one. Your favorite...
Because it's become the norm.
Norm, true. True.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way of life.
True. Your favorite finance concept that most people misunderstood?
Opportunity cost or sunk cost.
Okay. A non-finance discipline you draw inspiration from in your work?
No, I'm a distance runner, so I think I bring in a lot from my learnings or experiences of distance running into professional life.
Wonderful. One global finance leader or thinker you closely follow?
I think I read Howard Marks a lot. Of course, who doesn't read Charlie Munger?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Howard Marks probably.
Okay. An underrated risk that more CFOs and treasury heads should pay attention to?
The transformative impact of technologies on business.
Okay. That one dashboard metric you check first thing daily?
On markets, I mean, today when you get up, the first thing you check is where global markets have closed or opened.
Yeah, the
right?
Nasdaq
So whether it's
and the Dow
equity, US treasuries, currencies.
Yeah, probably that sets the ball rolling in India.
I mean, that's become like life now for
True.
treasury professionals.
Yeah. If not finance, what would you be doing?
Probably I would be in some organization running some business.
Okay. Startup?
I don't know. I'm extremely open to challenging myself to newer things.
Wonderful.
So I never say no to anything.
One last thing before I let you go. You mentioned about you're a long distance runner and in Africa. Tell us a little more about that, and how has it inspired you to, in your long-term careers in finance?
So I've been a distance runner for 15 years now, and my claim to fame, okay, for lack of any better word, is that I've run. There's a race called Comrades in Africa. It happens in Durban every year. It's a 90-kilometer run, which goes from one city to another. And the beauty of that race is it's called a race of 1,000 hills. So there are no flats. It either goes up, goes down. It's massively rolling up and down. So I've done that 9 years in a row. And next year in 26 will be my 10th year.
Wow.
So that will give me the coveted milestone of what is called as a green club in Comrades. So I will be the 5th Indian to get that green number, so-called green number. So when I started this, first year we were 65 of us. Last year we are 400.
Wow.
So India is now the largest foreign contingent at Comrades, and because I've been there so many times, I'm a designated ambassador of that race in India. So now it's become my duty and responsibility to popularize that race, to get more and more people to run that race. And I mean, it's a beautiful race. People who've been there want to go there again and again. It's the sheer challenge of putting yourself to that grind of 90 kilometers on that day.
Yeah.
12 almost 12 hours. You got to finish that race in 12 hours. There is a cutoff time.
Okay.
And of course the process of preparing for that race, 4 to 5 months of focus, perseverance and effort that goes, the discipline that goes. I mean, any long distance runner can't be a long distance runner unless you embed those qualities of discipline, perseverance, great being there. I mean, and then you translate that back into your lives, personal life, professional life. That is something that is not as spoken about, as discussed about, but it becomes extremely valuable. I mean, today I credit my ability to stay calm. I credit my ability to clarity of thought, which is extremely necessary for decision making. To be able to deal with tense situations in a better manner. Yeah. To persevere on a particular task.
Yeah.
To focus. All of this or most of this to long distance running. In anything that you deal with in personal or professional life, the journey from start to the goal is a bit longer and is never smooth, right? So there are ups, there are downs, but what distance running teaches you to be there.
Yeah.
Just be there, hang on, move on, keep moving. Eventually something will work, something will get it right, and you will reach your goal.
Wow. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
that ability to persevere is very necessary and very important in any aspect of your life.
True.
And that comes in when you're doing that daily, right? Because when you're running for an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, it just becomes second nature to you.
True.
And then that translates into your other aspects of your life. And that is I think the beauty or tremendous value that distance running gives you. It's not only about the physical attribute of putting your shoes and running. It is the mental attribute. It is this benefit that you then extract, which you got to experience.
Very well, from a long-term, sustained, patient, and a very objective-oriented finance career to a long-distance runner over the years, consistently again, and now actually representing India in a big way, because you brought that number to a triple digit now. All the very best for this. And Kashyap Mody, thank you so much for being with us on the Karmine Kompass, having pivotal conversations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And well, on that note, we come to the end of this amazing super special episode of this podcast, the Karmine Kompass with Mr. Kashyap Mody.